Yo, yo, yo. Hey. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm Tony Gapistone. We're live with the Brave Maker Show and Brave Maker Podcast. I am in Redwood City, California. That's where our headquarters are. And I am a filmmaker, the founder of this amazing nonprofit that we get to be a part of. And I love being a storyteller. And I got my co-host today.
Hey, what's going on, Tony? I'm Christina Jackson, coming to you from Dublin, California today.
And every Friday, we are talking live to amazing filmmakers, artists, brave makers, storytellers. Today, we have a very special guest. Before we introduce her, I need to ask you, Christina, how are you braving your way? What was this week like? How'd you brave your way this week?
I've been braving my way this week with EDM music, which I'm going to get into a little bit later on when I announce my Brave Fave. But I'm listening to a lot of Major Lazer and Cascade, and actually a really dope song right now if you want to check it out. It's called On Your Mind by Cascade. So I'm getting into the holiday spirit with EDM, having a lot of dance parties here at the house.
Nice. So this week I braved my way. I finally put together my director reel, and I just posted. It's like my first director's reel. I've had an actor's reel for a long time, but I finally put together my reel of a bunch of clips from all of the stuff that I've been writing and directing. So super fun. I'll put a link in the chat and in the show notes if you're listening on the podcast, but that is up on my YouTube page. Just posted it today. I got some stuff from Killer Couch. I got my short 1440 with Loretta Devine and some other stuff on there. So really excited to be able to put that out. That's it's important. It's like we got to keep moving forward. We always want to be inspiring our audience to be making things, taking little steps, doing things to create that inspire you so you can give birth to these things that you've been dreaming and making goals to go after. That's what we're about here, bravely making your dreams come true. All right, so we've got Kirin Bhatty today. We're really excited.
Welcome,
Kirin.
Kieran, celebrity makeup artist. You are our first makeup artist on the show.
This is super exciting.
And so let's just jump in. First of all, thanks for being so open. We just connected on the power of social media. This is like another example of social media. Right now, we're all at home. Mm-hmm. We're all on our phones. Yeah. And I saw this article in Variety about you, Kieran, and we had a Variety writer on a couple weeks ago, Clayton Davis. Oh, cool. And so I was like, this person looks amazing, sounds amazing. The work you do is amazing. So we're excited to get to know you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so thrilled, first of all, to know both of you in this way. This is so cool. I hope that when our world gets a little safer, we can meet in person and eat some snacks. And I know before we started our live today, we were talking about how much we love food and are also, all three of us are hungry right now. So there's that moment. So I'm really hoping, again, makeup artist is my job and my passion, but my other passion is eating snacks. So
ours too. Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Oh my goodness, Kieran.
If it wasn't a broadcast faux pas, we would be chewing and crunching and munching during.
It's tough for me because I am surrounded by snacks, but like I can't eat them on air. And so I'm just like I'll show you. They're literally right here next to me.
That is perfect.
So I'm just like, they're my motivators to really do a good job.
I love it. Well, hey, let's get into you. You have a really fascinating backstory. I know you're live in New York right now, but give us and our audience just a little, what's your brave backstory? You have braved your way in this industry in a really unique fashion. Can you tell us about it?
Sure. Well, as a celebrity makeup artist, it's kind of an interesting job because it is hard for everyone. It's a really, really tough space to succeed in, and you need help along the way from people who support you, believe in you. It also kind of takes a little bit of luck. And also just you have to really be patient. And so I've been very, very lucky, very fortunate to have been able to get this far and still continue to grow. But my backstory is kind of interesting because I used to have a job that I hated. Like many people who are in the creative field, a lot of us start somewhere where we're not happy. And when I was working in publishing, and I almost felt like a kid in a candy store, but like outside looking in. Because I was in publishing, but I wasn't where the creative stuff was happening. I was in the sales department, and I was the worst. Just like the worst employee they had ever had. But they kept me because I was, like a sweetie, and the economy was good, so you could still keep people around, even if they were just like worthless at their job. And so it was really there that I saw magazines and how special they were. And at that time, I didn't know what that meant for me. And then the recession hit, and it was really like the time for me where I just had to do a bunch of odd jobs to figure out my way to pay my rent. And doing those odd jobs, I connected with somebody who is still such a dear friend of mine. But her name is Lori Taylor, and she is the global pro makeup artist over at Smashbox Cosmetics. And she took me under her wing. She is a woman of color, a Black makeup artist who is just incredible. And Tony, we have her in common,
That's right.
Which we just found this out. Lori messaged me today and was, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you to be doing Brave Maker. Guess what? Tony is a mutual friend of her husband's best friend. So it's like this really cool world. And when Tony and I were talking about my backstory, I was really, really explaining to him how I don't think I would have come this far had I not had another person of color help me. And I just, when I began my journey as an assistant, it was Lori who was like, look, this job is hard no matter what for everybody. And when you are of color, it's even harder. And I really didn't understand what that meant until I actually started to gain some success. Because as an assistant, it's just, you're working, you're grinding, and every day is exciting. But when you start to grow and you start to blossom and your career starts to get bigger and opportunities start to get bigger, you also realize that not all the opportunities that you thought would be available to you are. And it was like I had Lori in my head, and I also had my dad. So my parents came to this country in the late 70s, as many South Asian first generation kids, their parents came at that time to America. I think my dad was number 9999. I think that's his immigration number.
Wow.
Like when he got here from that region. So it's kind of, it's an insane thing. He didn't have a birth certificate. It was like a whole deal. But, I remember when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do post-college and just also figuring out my way until I got here. And even now, unfortunately, the advice from my parents is, and particularly my father, is, don't do something that they can take away from you. And I really didn't understand what that meant as a young girl, because when you are born in America, you kind of are born with really big, bright eyes. You get excited about this American dream, and you have every right to have that. But as I started to grow in this industry, I would hear the echoings of my father of, you know, things like "This is not your country." When I was young, I would rebel against that of like, no, I'm American first, and then, you know, and then South Asian, Pakistani, and then we want to get more specific, Punjabi, Lahori. It's like you can keep going, but you know, this immigrant mentality of do things that are safe, which is why you do see a lot of South Asian first generation kids doing things like medicine or engineering, math-based things, science-based things, because those kind of, you know, people can't take them away from you as quickly. But when you are in the creative field, it's a little bit more difficult to get ahead because it's not really merit-based all the time. There is, like I said, there's a magical quality, there's a luck quality, but there's also an access quality. And so I always attribute my success to Lori because she gave me access to this world that is so closed and is such an elite space as it is. And so now where I'm at in my career, I try when I have stints and things like that to work with other BIPOC artists because there are so few of us in this tiny circle. And those who are in this tiny circle, this celebrity circle, we tend to only be allowed to work with other people who look just like us. And the hard part with that, as we've seen, is if you're only allowed to work with people who look like you, and if the industry only hires like 10% of people who look like you, then you're never going to make any money. And we all deserve to make a life and own a home one day and have a refrigerator full of groceries and maybe buy a few treats here and there. And it's really hard to make your way as a creative of color. And so I'm really hoping as we see our industry changing, we're seeing now people who are being featured in shows and everywhere. Now I'm seeing so much more diversity. I was actually really excited because I think it was a mattress commercial and every couple was a mixed couple. And so that was really exciting for me because, again, growing up, you didn't ever see that. But I still wonder when we're seeing all of these things, who are the creatives behind these images? And I think we still need to work on that because with makeup artistry and specifically celebrity makeup artistry, it's a very elite space. And generally, an elite space tends to be a white space, which is hard. And it's sad because it shouldn't be that way. An elite space should be elite because of the skill level. It shouldn't be because everyone happens to be a certain shade of something and the rest of us are the other. And every now and then we get a couple of chances, but you know, it's just not, it's still, there's not equity in that creative space yet. I know we are making strides in the film industry, TV, fashion to be more inclusive with the images and the people we're choosing to sell these products that, you know, we're advertising or things like that. But when you look at still who's behind the scenes, where I am, it's still very not mixed. And I hope that changes. I really want to be a part of that change. Because it's time. It can't be. I think about it all the time. I'm one of very few South Asian people who are in this space, and I constantly think about, well, it can't just be me who loves to work with lipstick and work with movie stars and, you know, work behind the scenes. It can't just be me, but it's me and just a few others because of the opportunity. And so, you know, I will never forget it. I did a shoot. Well, actually, it was not a shoot. It was like a small, we call them do and goes in our business, but a do and go is when you go to someone's house and you do their makeup and or their hair or what have you, and then they go to an event. Okay, so they're usually like a 2-hour long job. And so I was on a do and go where I did need an assistant that day with me. And my assistant was an Indian artist. And she said to work with me, it blew her mind. And it wasn't because I'm like some amazing person. It's just because we happen to kind of look alike and you don't really see that. And in my industry, I have always kind of been one of one or one of three or one of five. And so I never ever get to see people who look like me. And I guess really it's been recently that I've been more proud of where I'm from. And before I would be so scared to stick out at all or to say anything when I felt like something was off as far as like diversity and inclusion was concerned. But, you know, with our major social justice movement that we've had this year, all of us have a responsibility now to take that movement and apply it where we can to help others. And so I'm trying my best. I mean, our industry is pretty shut down right now. And so I'm hoping, though, as it opens, that this momentum isn't lost. Because, yes, it is so important that our images are changing. But look, we need more photographers of color. We need more differently abled creative directors. We need more diverse makeup artists. We need, and not just diverse makeup artists who work on diverse people, but who get to work on all shades. Because in my job, having the privilege to work on everyone is a high privilege in this job, and it shouldn't be. Because the unfortunate part is, as an artist of color, if you tend to only work with people of color, then you get put in a box, and then you don't get hired for anyone but people of color. And as we discussed before, because the opportunities for people of color to have that A-list opportunity is less, then you as an artist of color also have less opportunity. And so we just have to push these standards so that artists are held to a standard of, look, no matter what color you are as a person, as a professional makeup artist or hairstylist, you should be well-versed in every skin tone. You know, it can't be that, oh, well, I only work on a rosy, pale person, and I'm not going to go next to anybody who has brown skin or darker, because I don't want to do that. It's unacceptable. And we've all heard these terrible stories of models and actors coming to sets with bags of their own makeup because the person hired can't service them. And if that person cannot service that client, they shouldn't be on the job in the first place.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so we need to look at who we're hiring. We also need to look at how we're training artists. We learn on the job. Celebrity makeup artistry, a lot of us don't go to makeup school. I certainly didn't. I learned on set with Lori, and we learned she pushed every skin tone on me from the jump, and was very adamant in treating every skin tone from light and lightest to dark and darkest with care, with kindness, with precision, with expertise. And I just didn't really think that there was anything different, because she was my one and only teacher. And then when I got into the business, I realized, oh, okay, not everybody actually understands darker skin tones, because they've been able to coast and build beautiful careers on just working with people who are white. And so we just have this, this problem of there has to be diversity at every point, and inclusion at every point, and also, most importantly, equity at every point.
Yes.
And so, I mean, I could go on forever, but and I mean, I am, because this is, again, inclusion is super important to me, and I really hope that our industry takes note. Also, I hope that brands take note, because it's the same thing. We're launching now. You have to have multiple shades. You can't just have 5. You have to now have 50 plus for the big guys who have the money to do it. But still, with all these shades, who are we hiring to introduce them to the world? If the people that we're rewarding financially to introduce these wonderful new shades to the world still all look alike, then there is no equity in creating these shades. We're just profiting on people of color, and it's not fair. And people always say life's not fair, Hollywood's not fair, but we're allowed to demand a little bit more fairness in our jobs.
That's right.
And you are.
So that's kind of, I mean, look, makeup's really fun. We could talk about lip glosses and the perfect red and, all of that. But I think being home and not being able to touch my kit as much, it's one of those things that I've really been thinking about. What does it mean to be a BIPOC artist?
Yes.
Because, it is for me very lonely at times. And it shouldn't be. And I want young artists who are trying to break into the business to just be reminded that you have every right to be here, but you also have every right to succeed and to kill it and to be better than everyone, not to just hit a glass ceiling. Because oftentimes in my career, I've always felt like I was just lucky to be in the room. And because of that feeling, I never said anything. I never spoke up because I was the only one who looked like me. And you're scared to lose your place. So now I'm using my voice in a way that I never have. It's terrifying at times. But it's important. We have to advocate for each other. So
Yeah.
You are doing super important work, and you are bringing attention to the need for diversity and inclusion in the makeup artistry space of Hollywood in such a beautiful way. And what do you want to say to young people watching now who do have that feeling like, I'm not certain I belong in the room. Okay, I made it in the room. Let me not stir up any trouble. Like, what do you have to say to them about being courageous and brave as they pursue a career as a makeup artist?
Look, I've been there. I know how that feels to be terrified that you're going to lose it. And I would say to anyone who does feel that way or feels discouraged or feels like there's no place for them, I would say this is your time to demand space. This is your time to demand everything, demand respect, demand equal pay. Because if you don't advocate for yourself and you don't advocate for others, you'll get left. And I think this business, in the Hollywood side of it, it can be it's like I said in the beginning, it's hard for everyone. This job, no matter what, is hard for everyone. It's extremely competitive. There's really no merit-based ideas of how it works. Like, it's not like working at a regular job where if you do 4 years here, then you move up here, and then you do, you could be working in this job for 20 years and not find success. So it is hard no matter what, but don't be intimidated by the fact that no one looks like you. This is the time to be a pioneer in the space. And
yes.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Again, this is something that I think Gen Z specifically, they really inspire me because they are fearless in a lot of ways that I just was not when I was getting into this business. And part of it is, when I came through, this is going to really date me, there was no Instagram. It had just started. So you would have a portfolio, you had to do, you had to have a book, like a physical book of your work. And in a lot of ways, because of that, it made the space even tougher to get into. But now with our phones and social media, everyone can create their own space. So I would say for young creators, utilize the tools that you have and don't feel limited. Like if you feel like, oh, well, I don't have an agent or I don't have this or I don't have that, that's okay. Like take whatever tools that you have with you and use them. I just didn't have them when I was coming up, but now, you can light yourself, you can do all these great things that we just couldn't do 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So it's really time to do it and to take your moment. And I'm really proud. I'm proud of everyone who's trying to do this job because it is a heartbreaker no matter what. All of us are artists here, right? And our art breaks our hearts constantly, no matter what. But it's this like fearlessness that you just have to take with you. Oh, hello, Jessica.
Yeah.
Jessica says, "Thank you for the empowering words of wisdom. We
Yes,
definitely
you've
need to
got
hear
this.
this."
Whatever you're doing, Jessica, you've got this. Like this is all of our time. I'm excited. I literally am excited for everyone.
Yeah.
Especially for people who've been trying to find their way into the creative arts. What better time when everyone's home to actually create and put it out there?
Yeah, a lot of people have felt stifled by the pandemic, and I totally get it. It's a hard time. We're struggling. All of our normal revenue streams have been stopped or paused, right?
Yes.
So I feel for the collective of us creative people. And at the same time, I'm going, okay, there's no better time than to pull the bootstraps up and figure out how to do this. If anyone's going to figure out how to make it through, it's going to be the creative people. It's going to be the creative problem solvers, entrepreneurs, storytellers. Like, we have to find a new narrative here. And I'm wondering if have you seen things surface in the past 8 months? How long have we been in this pandemic now, that have inspired you, people who are trying new things or doing new things? Is there anybody in the industry, in your circle, that has really been influential to you in the space and time?
I think a lot of what's been inspiring me, because a lot of my friends are artists. We just tend to be friends with each other. And because of us all being artists, several of us are just unemployed. And what I've noticed is people who are artistic are pouring now their artistic tendencies into other things. And so obviously in the beginning of the pandemic, I feel like, I don't know, 50%, if not more, of my friends got really into bread making. There was like the banana bread movement and the sourdough bread movement. But I have a friend who, like, there's a new bread on her Instagram every week. Like, there's like a everything bagel, seasoning, cheddar, onion, and it's just like, so I'm seeing people pour themselves into other art forms that they weren't able to do before. So a friend of mine is into food. Another friend of mine has taken all of his artistic feelings and put them towards home design. Actually, two of my friends are doing that right now. So one is actually focusing on tiny spaces and what are they called? Like those tiny homes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And another friend has just been, pouring himself into all these home projects and things like that. And I think when you are an artist, and this is for anyone who is watching and who does work in the arts specifically, whose jobs have been kind of, put on hold, I feel you when it comes to feeling stifled creatively right now. But take that creativity. Most creative people are creative in lots of ways. And use it somewhere else. I mean, for me, it's been a lot of cooking lately. I've been always resistant in becoming like a cook like my mom. I wanted to always focus more on just being a career woman my whole life. And now during this pandemic, I'm pulling recipes from my mom day and night, just becoming this incredible Pakistani cook, because I never would have had a chance to really focus on that before. I mean, I feel like our interview today is all about food. Like,
we have no problem with that. We are fine.
Of course it is. Like, I'm the worst. I can't, it always has to come back to snacks. Always. But no, it's been such a cool thing for me to discover this artistic side of myself that is letting me create with recipes that are generations old that I resisted as a young woman, and now am embracing in such a big way. I'm, ordering from my spice market and figuring out cayenne versus Kashmiri chili and all of these things that I didn't look at as artistic or essential to my life. Because I think a lot of us are like this, that when we work in this field, it's go, go, go all the time. I mean, Postmates used to be my life. I never really would cook a lot, maybe like a little bit here and there, but really focusing now on nourishing myself in a really wonderful, healthful, but also artistic way. It feels like painting. It feels like creating, and there's this wonderful reveal at the end, which is similar to makeup. You work and then you get a reveal, and there's this, similarity that I get to draw with my job. So yes, I'm not right now, putting blush on anybody or creating images right now, but I am creating things in my kitchen. So that's been really lovely. A few of my friends are writing, so that's been cool. I've just been reading like a maniac, which I only did it on a plane. So I used to be on a plane, I'd say 2 to 3 times a month at least, because I'm bicoastal. I live in LA and New York. And so there was always that. And then I was very lucky last year. I got to do a lot of international traveling for work. And so because of that, as I mentioned to you earlier, I was in Japan at this time. Actually, just a little bit later I was there right in pre-pandemic. So I was in Japan working in February of last year, or this year actually, and the pandemic had just broke. And I remember my partner had called me and he had said, hey, just FYI, there's something going on. There's either like a flu or I think it's food based. So just be careful with what you eat. And then I'll see you in a couple days. And I was like, well, I'm just, I'm in the hotel and I'm leaving tomorrow. So whatever. And I remember coming home and it's just the whole world.
Yeah. The
Kind of
ripple
changed.
effect.
And that initial panic, that initial mourning that you have of our old life and all of that stuff has now transitioned for me into taking my artistry. And I think a lot of us are doing that and putting it into other avenues. I mean, I miss my job greatly, but I'm happy that I'm still an artist in my heart. And I think for anyone who's out there who's feeling stifled, your artistry, your creativity, that is always yours, no matter what. Even if you don't have a medium to work with, it's in your heart. You have an artist's heart. So
like that one. That's good.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
I promise we're going to get to makeup, but something that is equally delicious as the snacks we're going to share is Kirin's Instagram. Oh my goodness. Your Instagram is such a delicious feast for the eyes. So let's talk about makeup a little bit. What is your favorite beat? Are you a full glam? I love your dead Bollywood look. That was so amazing. Are you more of a neutral? Like what face do you love to do?
So generally for me, my style is more, I would say, on the natural side. I like to enhance features for my clients, but I don't recreate. So I'm not going to give you like a full on moment of you're like, oh my God, this person looks completely different. It's not transformational. That's not where my passion is. For me, it's identifying in my client features that they love about themselves. Oh, there's my mom. I love her.
Yeah.
Riri is incredible, but we'll get to her in a minute. But for me, it's always been about enhancing features, glowing skin. I think there's nothing more beautiful than enhancing what someone already has, and almost just shining a light on someone. And so I also just like the spiritual connotation of that, which means I'm not changing you into something that you're not. I'm taking what you have and just shining a little light on it so you can go into the world and be yourself. And that's kind of, for me, that's my aesthetic. That's the beauty that I love. I love, I think some people call them imperfections or flaws, but I'm not someone who's going to cover up a freckle unless that makes you feel good. If for you, if you're like, Kier, I like a full face coverage. That's what I feel best about myself. Then for me, I want you to feel the best. So really, it's about I love that image, just lit from within, beautiful, natural, with little enhancements here and there.
Very natural. Yes.
Yeah. Like a gorgeous wing on her, beautiful brow. But I generally tend to focus on the skincare aspect of it. And
Yes.
little bits of things that still that person isn't unrecognizable. That person looks like them, and they just look like the best version of themselves. That's always been my aesthetic. It's very interesting now too, because there's so many different styles, and there is, like you said, there's a full glam moment. I like more of a natural moment, but I have so much respect for, someone who does do full glam, because again, that's an art form also.
Mm-hmm.
So, makeup's really fun. There's no rules.
It is.
I think it's really more about just the emotional. I love that moment.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really lucky, especially, I got my favorite thing to do at work, I would say, is award shows. And the reason for that is, first of all, there's gorgeous dresses and, shoes and jewelry and bags and the whole thing. Like, I'm someone who has always just been mystified by behind the scenes part of everything. But more so with award shows or someone's wedding or a big day. Yes. So this moment, I got to do Awkwafina's makeup for the Golden Globes, where she won. And for her, it was a historic win. For the world, it was a historic win because she was the very first Asian woman in that category to win this award ever in the history of the Golden Globes. And as a South Asian artist myself, so rare in our business to have this opportunity as well, I felt like I won. It felt like such a big win to have this historic moment happen, and my hands got to touch it. And for me, I felt like this is everything. This means that there is a chance.
Very cool.
For, people who look like me or who don't look like the typical what we think of what like a celebrity makeup artist should look like there is a chance. And to know that there's a chance, I felt representation for myself from Awkwafina's award, because it meant so much to so many people, but it meant everything to me, not just because she was winning this award, but it made me feel like I had a chance as an artist to be in this elite rung of artists that only, there's only one winner each year, right? In every category. And each of those winners has a team, makeup, hairstyling, the whole thing. And those teams are small and they are generally not diverse. And so to be part of a team like that, it just felt like I had a chance. Like I could, it's like, they always say you want to reach for the stars. I felt like I touched it just a little. Like
she looked absolutely
you.
stunning. And you spoke a little bit about the gowns and all the glitz and glamour. Do you ever pull inspiration from what your clients are going to be wearing on the red carpet for their look?
All the time. So in that case, for the Golden Globes, she wore Dior Couture. And so generally what I'll do, because we'll get like we'll get to see the dress before for big things like that. Sometimes it's, day of, and also sometimes emergencies happen. So there could be a dress that was in, and then something rips and we've got a new dress, and, there are changes like that happen. But in this case, this was very planned and we knew what we were getting into. So for me as an artist, part of my process is not only just talking to my client about what they envision for themselves that day, but also I generally will go to like awards shows past, like I'm talking 1950s, 1960s, and I'll start there because I love to see those iconic moments and what people look like. And then what I'll do is I'll go from the collection that was sourced from that designer. And when I get to look at the runway of that year, it's nice because then I see what the designer envisioned, because in runway shows, the designer will meet with the head makeup artist who's designing the look, and that look for hair and makeup will also tell a story. And so a lot of times, as we see runway makeup is crazy looking and wild, it's a great thing as an artist to have that, because then you take your own interpretation from that wild, crazy idea, and you build something beautiful. And so for us with this look, we wanted something that was iconic, that was, you know, I wanted her to have her movie star moment. And so we did pull from like almost an old Hollywood aesthetic with a red lip and like a beautiful clean wing. It was just about timeless classic beauty, because this moment is timeless.
Really
and
cool.
It was perfect. It was perfect. So beautiful.
Thank you. It really, that, I think, you know, when you, again, back to food, you know, when you cook something and people say it tastes better when it's cooked with love.
Yes.
That look had so much love in it, from me, from her, from the stylist, the publicist, the hairstylist, our nail stylist, everyone in that room that day. We are loving what we're doing.
I love it.
Filling the room with love. And you feel that when it's true. When somebody feels good, they look good.
Yeah.
And you know, you could have the best makeup artist in the world with the most expensive tools, and if someone doesn't feel great that day, it's not going to shine. And we had such a lovely day. Probably one of the best days I've ever had, to be honest.
So cool.
And it's just, you know, this is why we work in the creative field, because yes, it is a heartbreaker, but it's also a heart maker, right? You get days where
I love
so
that.
good.
Yep, you get days where you're like, this might be the best day I've ever had, you know, ever.
And I really appreciate what you're talking about, because you're talking about this collective teamwork, right? So it's all these people working together. Obviously, you have the talent, you have yourself as the makeup artist, you have the people who are doing the hair and the wardrobe, and all of the artists who have made the film together, from the director to the cinematographer. I just think like that kind of thing really inspires me. I mean, I'm like, we've been talking for 40 some minutes. Like I could keep talking for another hour.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like,
I just realized that. I'm like,
I'm like, do we have to stop the show? Because I don't want to stop. Because this is like something that for us as a Brave Maker, we are really passionate about, like every part of the story being like inclusive and diverse, and not just what's in front of the camera, behind the camera. So it makes me so happy to have gotten to meet you, Kieran, and hear this backstory. I started out as an actor, so I know like the intimate process of someone, you know, I have a bunch of tattoos, and I have just a shout out to Wendy Dispinette, one of my favorite makeup artists in the Bay Area, as well as Lisa Martinez. But
hey, Wendy.
But Wendy had to cover all of my tattoos. I have tattoos. I had to do a streaking scene for a scene in a film called San Francisco Stories, and she spent 2 hours on me. And I'm just sitting there. Right, it's a whole other thing, and you have to have like not just the ability to do someone's makeup and make them look beautiful, but it's like a social thing. You're talking and you're learning how to honor someone's boundaries, and do they want to be quiet? Do they want to talk? And there's just, we could talk a whole nother hour on that. So I just think you must be an incredible person to be able to have done so many great things. And I wish we could talk. We'll definitely have to have you on again, because I want. There's just so many stories I'm sure that you could share. Like you've been able to travel all around the world and go to all these award shows. I think there's so many good things. So let me ask you one more question before we get to our Brave faves. Is there some kind of fun story about yourself that you learned through failure, through, you know, messing up, through conquering a really hard thing? You know, you talked about getting into the room and having to conquer that imposter syndrome. You didn't use those words, but the idea of, do I belong here? Is there another thing that you learned, like you can quickly share as we kind of end our show? A story, something that stands out.
This job has been based on failure. You know, like I always was pretty good at school, but not the best when it came to math and science. And again, as a child of South Asian immigrants, that feels like a failure, because, you know, arts are not pushed for us. It is, you know, science and math. And so not being able to succeed in that way, and then not marrying young, and not like having a kid right away, that felt like a failure, not only as an immigrant child, but just as a woman. You know, I think there's all this social pressure on women to pursue that part of our lives very early. And then obviously, like to your question of like, was there something, that a story regarding failure and coming from that? I mean, again, when I lost my job, before I became a makeup artist, and I was unemployed, and I mean, essentially, like, I was laid off, but I was unemployed. I was fired, you know? I was the worst. And I just, I remember, I remember feeling like I had two options. And I remember sitting in my tiny studio apartment in Los Angeles at the time, right off Formosa, if anybody knows LA. And I remember sitting there and really thinking that I had two options. I could either sink to the bottom or rise to the top. And I saw both of those things in front of me. And I thought, okay, sinking to the bottom means I let this moment define me and I never come out of it. And then I feel not just unemployed in my job, but I feel unemployed in everything. And, you know, I needed that, because sometimes, yes, you do have to like kind of reach your low to get to your high. And I took that moment and I decided, this is my time. This is my chance to try and to really not be scared, to not just work at a magazine, but in the safe department of, you know, sales and advertising, because money's there. But really, I'm going to try to go create those images. I'm going to do it. And I'm really glad I did it, because I'm here now. And now I'm in another place that feels scary. This doesn't feel as failure related, because none of us are responsible for this pandemic, right? This is beyond all of our control. And so none of us have failed in that, you know, unless you're not wearing a mask, put the mask on.
If you're not wearing a mask, you're failing.
Yeah. If you're not wearing a mask, I'm upset with you. But you know, when you bring up failure, where I am right now in my career and it being at a halt, it's very reminiscent of that time, because inside failure lives fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that fear of like, at that time, and it was like, am I going to be able to pay these bills? Am I going to be able to like eat? And look, by the grace of God, I survived it. But look, I ate food out of cans all the time. I had a lot of friends who worked at restaurants, so there was like free things happening here and there. I was babysitting people's kids. I was visiting people who worked. One of my best friends worked at a bar, and I helped him open it. And in exchange, before he opened, I got to eat all the shitty food that they sell everyone. And so inside failure, yes, there is fear, but inside failure, there's also hope. And so, you know, you get to kind of decide which way you want to be. And so at this time, where I'm feeling, and I think a lot of us are in our community, it feels scary. It feels like you're not going to make it and you're not going to come out of it. And I think specifically also for young artists who are just still assisting and entering the business, it probably feels very scary and very failure ridden. I would say this is the time that you have to access that strong part of what being a human being is all about, which is what makes it so special, is that ability to thrive and to come out of things fighting and swinging. And yeah, I hope that for us as a nation, honestly, during this
so
time.
good.
You know,
that is so good.
Yeah,
so
we
good.
come out of this swinging and we're better than ever. You know, that's my American dream now.
Kieran, you need to have a podcast. You need to have a show. You got some good stuff to say.
I'm just chatty.
I love it. Inside failure, there is fear, but there is also hope. It's so good. It's so good.
Don't you feel that way?
I think you're right. I think you're right. There's so much wrapped into there. And that's why we call ourselves Brave Maker, because we believe you have to bravely face your fears. And there wouldn't be a thing called bravery or courage if there wasn't a thing called fear, right? So you got to dabble that. So that's great. Oh, so good. Well, we're gonna keep moving forward with our segment. You know it. It's how we end our show. Stand by. All right, every week we share our favorite things for the week, and my favorite thing is food. It's food. It's food. It's from Trader Joe's. It's these espresso beans. They're like chocolate covered, white chocolate covered, caramel covered. I love coffee. I love espresso, and I just pop them like they're candy because they kind of are candy, but they're really delicious. So get them at Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
They are Danger Zone, or you can order them on Amazon Prime, but they're delicious. Kieran, what do you got?
Okay, mine's also obviously food related. Like, I mean, should we just turn Bravemaker into like just a food?
We could.
Celebration.
We do need a food segment. Yeah.
We could have a food segment.
Food segment would be rad. Okay, so so you said I could have more than one.
Do it, Kieran.
Okay. They're pretty much all food related, but I will say I'm all about supporting small businesses right now. That is what I am all about. That's what's making my heart happy. So I want to say my favorite bakery right now to visit in New York is Mazadar Bakery. And the cool thing is, if you're not in New York, they ship nationwide.
Nice.
My friend Umber owns it. She's incredible. And the cookie dough is insane. You feel like you are chefing it by, just putting it in your oven. No big deal. So I will say, love Mazadar. That is one of mine. Another is, and I don't know the name of this market, but there's a brand new Japanese market that opened up on 6th Avenue between 10th and 11th in the West Village. And that's where you get these treats from.
Beautiful.
Nice.
And my last little plug is, as I mentioned, I'm an avid reader. And with all this time, I've just been reading mad fiction all the time. I love my bookstore, which is 3 Lives Bookstore. They just relocated. They're temporarily there, but they're right on, I believe, Hudson. Are they on Hudson? No, they're on 10th. Yes, they're on 10th. And they're incredible. They're locally owned, and they also will ship nationwide. So for everyone out there, please support your small business owners, restaurants, bookstores, people on Etsy making Christmas cards. Like, whatever it is, even if you've got to pay shipping, remember, like, when you're supporting somebody who has a small business, like, that money goes directly to their fridge, to their gas tank, to, their kids' books, like, whatever it may be. And so, yes, of course, yes, we can shop wherever we need to shop, but please, like, if you can, shop small when you can.
Thanks, Kieran. Cool. Yeah, Christina, what you got?
All right, my great fave is a phenomenal show on Hulu. It's called Major Lazer, and I've talked about it a lot. I'm in the process of writing a comic book, so I'm all in the comic book world, and Major Lazer is a larger-than-life superhero. He's a Jamaican superhero with a bionic, I'll say a laser arm. And he lost his arm in a secret zombie war, which is so cool. You got to get into the story. And if you're an EDM fan, you're like, Major Lazer, that sounds familiar. Yes, it's created by producer Diplo. It's also a musical group. You tell your Spotify or Pandora, whatever you have to play Major Lazer. You're going to love it. You're going to love the show. And I have one more thing. I got to ask Kieran, before we go, I want to try Pakistani food. I haven't been brave enough. So for someone who's ready to jump in and support one of their local Pakistani restaurants, what's a dish I could get my feet wet with?
Okay. Wait. Do you eat meat or not?
I do.
Okay. Do you like chicken?
I do.
Okay. So have you been to an Indian restaurant or no?
Yes, I have.
So, okay, the cool thing, well, at least the region that I'm from, which is Punjabi, which is Lahore, a lot of Indian restaurants cook that kind of food. It's North Indian. That's where Pakistan, where my parents are from, was cut from. So I would say if you want to dip your toe and you're a little nervous, do you like garlic?
I do.
Okay, so order yourself a garlic naan. Delish.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Delish. And then get yourself, have you ever had chicken tikka masala?
So good. I don't know. Yes.
Okay.
So chicken tikka masala.
Chicken tikka masala is a great place to start. Chicken tikka by itself is also a great situation to start in if you don't want to do like a sauce. Just what it is it's just like cubed breast meat that's barbecued, our style. And then you get chutney. So get the tamarind chutney and the mint chutney. And you just make yourself a little kebab roll, dip it in. We're all about dips.
Loving this.
Okay.
So, I would say any kebabs, I like
kebabs. Okay.
any kebabs are like a seekh kebab is delicious. And then if we also make biryani, which is like a very delicious Pakistani delicacy in the rice world. So it's like spiced, beautiful rice with usually a lamb meat situation. You can also do it vegetarian if that makes you nervous. I'm trying to think.
I like lamb.
Well, there you go.
I mean,
if
my mouth is watering now.
Oh my gosh, you guys, this is too good.
This became a food.
This became the Brave Maker food show. Yeah. So when the pandemic ends and we can have some food, and you're on this coast, Kieran, can we get together, please? There's actually a Pakistani restaurant that just opened in Redwood City. We can all gather together. Yes, I would love. Right?
I would love that.
I'm looking at Lupe over there.
We should do we'll do Pakistani food. We can do it in California. We can do it in New York. I mean, we can do we can do a whole moment. We can have a cooking moment, the three of us.
All right, we're definitely gelling with you, Kieran. Thank you so much for being on the show. One more thing for Christina. Yeah. So I heard that you said you love comics. Are you excited about Miss Marvel?
I just ordered the shirt off of Amazon. Does that answer that?
Dude, I am so excited for Miss Marvel. And I'm not even
excited. I'm writing fan fiction around it. I'm writing fan fiction around Miss Marvel. So yeah, I'm over the moon. This is gonna take another hour. Tony's like, no.
I mean, Kamala Khan, are we ready?
Oh my gosh, Kamala. Not ready, but we're so blessed. We're so fortunate to have it right now. It's so amazing. It's so amazing.
Yeah. Christina is taking a class from a guy in New York right now, right? Isn't he? Yeah. So comic book fan guy. So, oh my gosh, there's so many great things. I'm sorry we have to end. Let me just quickly do my outro. You all, thank you so much for watching and listening. These conversations give us life. Brave Maker is a 501c3 nonprofit, so everything that we do depends on your generous donation. So as you make your financial planning for the rest of the year, keep us in mind. It helps us do our brave work. You can go to our website at bravemaker.com/donate to give, or you can text the word Brave Maker to 44321 right on your phone. I know times are tough for everybody. Every dollar helps us stay on the air and connect with great artists like Kieran and continue to inspire you. We hope we are inspiring you to do the great work that you're doing. It's been a pleasure talking with these two beautiful women today. And yes, we're going to continue connecting and meeting. We always end the show by saying brave stories change the world.
And you are the story. Bye,
awesome.
Everybody.
Thanks, Kieran. We're going to see a new bumper by our animator, Andrew Davenport. So enjoy. This is how we'll end today.
Love you guys. Thank you.